Ever wondered if Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales actually boosts your team's productivity, or is it just another overhyped AI add-on? In the next few minutes, we'll pull back the curtain on real use cases like automatic email drafts, AI-powered lead prioritization, and those much-touted opportunity summaries. But let's get real. Where does Copilot stumble, and where is it quietly saving hours? Stay with us to see features in action and hear where experienced admins are still leaning on manual work, where Copilot fits in the sales machine. If you've ever looked at your sales process and thought it resembled a set of gears grinding away, sometimes cooperating, sometimes jamming up, you're not alone. Every sales org wants those gears turning smoothly, but most teams end up somewhere in between manual hustle and half-finished automation. Enter Copilot. It's not the whole engine, and it definitely isn't driving the car. Instead, think of it as the WD-40 you hope will quiet down that squeaky chair in your office. Sometimes a squirt of lubricant does exactly what you need. Other times it just hides a problem you should probably fix at its source. A lot of us have been burned before by tools that promise to make life easier, only to discover another dashboard we're forced to monitor, more pop-ups, or an AI that's impressive on a slide, but clueless about how we actually close deals. Most Dynamics 365 sales teams already juggle an awkward mix of digital and manual steps. There's usually an export to Excel happening somewhere, a few Power Automate flows, maybe even a shared mailbox where everything that doesn't fit the CRM goes to languish. By the time Copilot lands in your workflow, the temptation is real. Let AI take the repetitive stuff, even if it means squeezing yet another tool onto your screen. But here's where things get messy. Microsoft is quick to show stats and use cases that sound fantastic, yet their research, even buried in their own white papers, admits that productivity jumps only show up when the AI plays nicely with your existing workflow. Plug Copilot in and try to automate away a core step, and you may find yourself doubling back to repair things you didn't know you'd broken. It's a bit like slathering lubricating oil on a chair that creaks because the frame's warped. Sure, the noise goes away for a while, but eventually someone leans back and the whole thing groans under the pressure. A real sore spot for many sales teams is just how unpredictable Copilot feels in custom workflows. If you're working off the shelf with standard fields, cookie cutter stages, and deals that look mostly the same, Copilot tends to blend right in. It handles standardized tasks like lead routing or nudging you about follow-up almost invisibly. But for those of us managing pipelines that depend on niche data fields, migrations from past CRMs, or a sequence of review steps unique to our business, Copilot becomes hit or miss. Sometimes it tries to automate fields that nobody uses anymore. Sometimes it glosses over those manual tasks you wish it understood. And sometimes it just goes quiet, waiting for someone to fill in the blanks. One of the places Copilot actually finds its groove is right in the background, pushing a lead to the next person in line, teeing up reminders for follow-up, or flagging a stalled deal that nobody's touched in a week. It's the difference between having someone quietly refill your coffee before you need to ask and having a robot barista deciding you should switch to tea because your heart rate's too high. If Copilot sticks to supporting roles, enhancing the work you're already doing instead of trying to rewrite the playbook, the friction is minimal and the impact, while subtle, starts to accumulate. The catch? Try to lean on the headline features everyone's talking about, like AI-generated emails or automatically summarized deals, and suddenly the gears start to clatter again. Yes, the efficiency looks great in a demo environment where everything is clean and predictable, but push Copilot into a real sales motion and you'll spot the seams. A form letter that's too bland, a summary that misses the reason a deal's stuck, or a lead score that weights the wrong signals. There's a definite trade-off. Some friction may disappear, but cleanup time creeps in somewhere else. If you talk to the frontline reps, they'll tell you straight, Copilot's at its best when it's quietly shaving off a few minutes here and there. Shuffling tasks, nudging follow-up, gathering details, these are small wins but add up over time. Wherever Copilot aims to replace human intuition or over-automate unique steps, though, you get a bit of pushback. That doesn't mean the tool's useless, just that it's not the magic bullet some webinars suggest. Think of Copilot as a background enhancer. It's supporting cast, not a star. You'll appreciate it most when you don't notice it. So if you're hoping for a transformation, you might be disappointed. If you're content with an AI that quietly makes a few things run a little smoother, you'll probably find a few features worth using. But let's put all the theory aside and see what happens in practice. Up next, it's one thing to promise time saved on paper. What actually happens when you hand off follow-up emails to Copilot and let it write the first draft? Email generation, time saver, or template factories? You're staring down another Monday morning and your inbox already looks unforgiving. There are maybe 30 clients still waiting on a reply, and you're expected to not only respond, but tailor every single note. Enter Copilot. Now, you're told the AI can handle follow-ups in seconds, but the promise seems almost too good. Just tap a button in Dynamics 365, and suddenly you've got a draft email for each opportunity already filled with details from the CRM. Your last call gets referenced, the product you pitched is named, even your main talking point from 2 weeks ago is conveniently pulled into the first draft. All it takes is a click and you've saved the grinding first few minutes of staring at a blank screen, right? But then the experience gets more complicated. Sure, Copilot is quick. Those homegrown follow-up templates you'd been pasting for months now look positively ancient. Watching it grab customer names, latest activities, meeting dates, and even reword a couple of your standard intros feels like genuine progress. So far, so good. Until you open that first draft note and read the suggested email to your top prospect. Now you start spotting the limits. The subject line is a little too generic. It sounds like something your insurance company would send out, not your carefully built relationship with a high-value customer. The body gets the deal amount right, but fumbles the context. Maybe it misreads your last activity as finalizing details when really you are still negotiating scope. You're not starting from scratch, but now you're slowing down to fact check and rephrase details the AI grabbed and twisted slightly out of shape. This isn't just theory. Early adopters have given Copilot's email generation a pretty mixed report card. The recurring theme: about 60% of AI drafted emails need moderate changes before they're safe to send. Usually the fixes boil down to the tone. Maybe it comes out too stiff for a warm lead, or for more nuanced deals, too informal when the situation calls for a touch of formality. Some drafts drop in the right client name and mention the recent product demo, but still miss the urgency the contact signaled during your last call. Let's dig into an example from the real world. Imagine you're following up with a prospect you've spent weeks nurturing. You hit the Copilot button, and almost instantly there's a draft referencing your last conversation, the timeline you discussed, and a generic note about next steps. It all reads like a well-meaning intern took the meeting notes and ran them through a mail merge. The basics are there, but nothing stands out. The email doesn't acknowledge the prospect's unique worries about implementation delays, which you remember clear as day, but Copilot apparently skated right past. It's at this point that the editing begins. You end up rewriting the second paragraph so the tone matches your rapport. You drop an unnecessary sentence that sounds like it was pulled from the company's knowledge base. By the time you finish, you've probably spent less time writing than if you'd started from scratch, but not by much. It's a common pattern. The AI relieves the anxiety of getting started, but you're still on the hook for cleaning up tone, verifying all details, and, most importantly, catching anything the CRM isn't up to date on. And that's where the subtle risks creep in. If Copilot's pulling data that's even a week out of date, say an old product configuration or a deal value that already changed, you're one click away from sending an embarrassing or confusing message to a big ticket client. The AI doesn't know you just spoke to that customer on the phone and agreed to push next steps back until budget season. If the notes in Dynamics 365 don't reflect that, the drafted email might unintentionally rush the prospect, erasing the goodwill you spent months building. This is why teams treating Copilot's drafts as first drafts only, rather than finished work, report better results. Groups putting in the work to keep their CRM clean and up to date, notes, call summaries, decision maker roles, all see more time savings. The AI's output is only as good as what it finds. So if the CRM is cluttered with half-finished notes or records that haven't been updated since last quarter, you're asking for trouble. The email will fill in placeholders and guesses, but guesswork doesn't fly with sensitive accounts. There's also the temptation to send these emails as is when you're buried in work. That's risky. An AI-generated note without your sanity check becomes a liability instead of a time saver. So the honest take is Copilot can help cut the dullest part of the job: the blank page, the repetitive details, the need to remember every last account status. But editing is almost always a must if you want to protect your reputation and your deals. Of course, the next logical step in this automation push is deal summaries. Instead of building a message, Copilot promises to boil down complex opportunities into quick, digestible overviews. The question is, can it actually dig up the key insights, or are you left with bullet points that barely scratch the surface? Copilot's email generation shows there's value, but there's also a line you shouldn't cross without reading carefully. So let's move from your inbox straight to the deal room and see if Copilot can actually make you smarter or just busy, summarizing opportunities, AI insight, or cliff notes. So you're sitting down for a last-minute deal review. Maybe you've got 5 minutes and just enough time to skim the highlights. Copilot says it can give you the whole picture in a quick summary, no need to click through endless activity logs or pick out scraps from meeting notes. On the surface, this sounds ideal. You crack open an opportunity in Dynamics 365, scroll past the details, and fire up Copilot's summary panel. Suddenly, you've got the deal size, the latest activity, the proposed timeline, and next steps all packaged in a few tidy sentences. If you're used to sifting through half-completed notes or trying to recall who last talked to the client, this looks like an immediate win. But here's where things start to show their limits. Copilot is great at scooping up the facts that anyone could find in a few clicks. The current stage, estimated close date, and a log of what's happened since the opportunity landed in your pipeline. What it can't always spot, though, are those undercurrents that make or break a deal. Maybe you and the customer have been dancing around a pricing objection no one wants to put in writing. Or perhaps there's a pattern. Every time this type of deal gets to the final round at your company, it quietly disappears without explanation. Copilot doesn't see what isn't written down, and it definitely doesn't pick up on gut feeling, that sanitized headline it spits out. It's accurate, but it's often missing the why behind everything. Let's put this to the test with an actual opportunity. Here's one that's lived in a real pipeline for about 3 months. Copilot's summary is pretty textbook. It lists the account manager, current phase, proposal sent, expected revenue, and a reminder that the last meeting was 2 weeks ago. It even grabs scheduled next steps and indicates the main product being discussed. For a quick catch-up, this checks the boxes, at least if you're new to the deal or covering for someone on vacation. But then I pull up the rep's raw notes tucked away in the timeline. That's where the seller pointed out that procurement is dragging its feet and the main contact just announced a sabbatical. You only notice hints of those concerns in Copilot's version. At best, you get customer awaiting internal approval. That kind of framing is accurate in the most technical sense, but it won't help the sales manager understand why things have stalled or what roadblocks still linger. This isn't just an isolated gripe. Microsoft's studies reflect the same pattern. Copilot reliably nails the transactional stuff. Deal stage, check. Dollar value, check. Scheduled next steps, another check. Where it falters is in the gray areas. Complex enterprise deals where so much context isn't entered into the CRM, or where unstructured updates matter more than logged activities. Sales leaders know this, which is why so many still pressure their teams for good notes after every call. The AI just doesn't catch everything, especially nuance that only makes sense if you've been following the opportunity for weeks or months. But let's not pretend this is all downside. For smaller deals or high-velocity sales cycles, think SMB or transactional business, Copilot summaries can move the process along at a noticeably faster clip. Daily stand-ups or handoffs become less painful. No one's stuck reading through 3 pages of updates. You get the gist immediately and the team saves time. There's very little risk if all you care about are clear actions and current status. The same pattern shows up in organizations with short cycles. Pipeline reviews happen faster, and you avoid the where did I leave things shuffling that tends to waste 10 minutes per call. Still, you can't shake that nagging feeling. What if Copilot distills the wrong things or skips what actually matters? And especially on big strategic deals, there's always some context buried in the rep's written feedback, the uncomfortable email thread, or a hunch that the deal's about to freeze. That's information you lose if you lean only on AI summaries. A quick look at how senior sellers work shows they almost always consult their own notes first, using Copilot as a sanity check instead of a single source of truth. Here's another thing to keep in mind. Copilot summaries only work as well as the data behind them. Inconsistent call logs, generic meeting subjects, or spotty status updates mean the AI's output is only as strong as the weakest field. Smart teams have figured out a reliable pattern, make the CRM as comprehensive as possible, then use Copilot to surface the high points for everyone else's benefit. So in routine cases, Copilot absolutely speeds things up, just enough to make a difference. But when it comes to those deals where every sentence could tip the scale, there's still no replacement for a human who's kept tabs from the very start. AI insight gets you in the door, but it won't always tell you which door is about to slam shut. Now, if you're already relying on Copilot's quick summaries, you might be tempted by the next promise, smarter lead scoring. Can AI really identify your best bets, or is it just highlighting whoever clicked the most marketing emails? Before you hand over your lead list, let's see how Copilot approaches prioritization and whether those predictive flags make your pipeline cleaner or just busier. Lead prioritization, smarter pipeline, or just more alerts? If you've worked with any kind of lead scoring tool before, you know two things tend to happen. It sounds helpful when the AI starts ranking prospects so you can focus on the best bets, and then reality hits when those rankings don't quite line up with your own instincts or your team's established sales process. Copilot drops in with the promise that it can finally separate the hot leads from the digital tire kickers using data straight out of Dynamics 365, how often prospects open your emails, which links they've clicked, how recent their last interaction was, and every engagement signal it can find. That sounds logical in theory, but in the day-to-day, the AI has a blind spot. It only knows what's in the system. The real world is always more complicated than what gets logged into CRM. Let's say the AI highlights a lead at the very top of your call list. Maybe that person has opened 3 of your follow-up messages in the past week and even attended your last webinar. On the surface, that's exactly what Copilot is designed to reward: recent measurable engagement. But the seller who's been dealing with that prospect every quarter knows the pattern. They click everything, download every white paper, sign up for every lunch and learn webinar, and then disappear when it's time to have a real sales conversation. Their CRM record is an engagement goldmine, but they've never made it past a discovery call. It doesn't matter that Copilot gives them a score of 97. Unless someone brings their own context, that lead is probably a dead end. That right there is the classic pitfall of AI lead scoring across the board. It's only as sharp as the trailing data you feed it. The system has no gut feeling, no way to spot those professional downloaders every experienced seller can identify with one glance. What happens next? Your team can start to trust Copilot's top picks a little too much, giving attention to obvious lookalikes and quietly ignoring the prospects who wrote one thoughtful reply but didn't trip the AI's scoring rules. This is where you can see how blind faith in an algorithm easily buries real opportunity in the noise. And then there's the question of noise itself. Bad CRM data can throw Copilot's ranking into chaos faster than you think. Say you have a batch of leads with missing phone numbers or outdated company info. Maybe the activity history is thin because someone forgot to log a key meeting, or the last 5 emails bounced for a technical reason, not a lack of interest. The AI, seeing only gaps and missing activity, gives those prospects a low score, even if there's real momentum hiding behind the gaps. Flip it around. A lead with a robotic email autoresponder logs every message as a reply, spiking their engagement score for all the wrong reasons. The result: your top 10 list of hot leads is suddenly stacked with contacts who might not even know your company exists, while the actual decision makers are sitting quietly at the bottom, waiting for someone to notice. To be fair, not every team falls into these traps. Pilot programs have shown that Copilot's AI-powered scoring is genuinely more useful when teams don't just take the rankings at face value. Instead, they blend the AI suggestions with their own custom rules, maybe awarding bonus points for certain job titles or priority industries, or knocking down scores for repeat non-responders. And crucially, leads aren't pushed straight into the pipeline just because the AI thinks they're ready. There's still a quick human review. This hybrid approach is where AI starts to feel more like a partner than a referee. It flags obvious wins, but it doesn't cut humans out of the play. But introducing Copilot also creates a new layer of logistics. If your existing sales methodology has its own scoring system, like custom criteria from years of sales ops tweaks or even just an Excel-based rubric, a second layer of Copilot's logic can make things less clear instead of more. Sellers might find themselves asking which score matters today, or chasing down why 2 tools flagged different accounts as most important. Every added system means an extra tab open and another internal debate over which dashboard to trust. Data quality, once again, sits at the center. No matter how smart Copilot's algorithm gets, it's blind to what isn't there. If your CRM is full of uninspired notes or inconsistent contact updates, the AI sees shadows, not real history. That can steer your whole team toward echo chamber leads, passing over the hidden gems, the prospects who stay relatively quiet online but always convert after 2 or 3 thoughtful conversations. Copilot shines when the data paints a clear picture, but as soon as fog rolls in, it loses its way, just like any of us would with missing context. Bottom line, Copilot in Dynamics 365 Sales isn't here to replace your hunches. The best use case: let the AI narrow the field, then put your experienced team on cleanup. You'll move faster on sure things, but you won't miss that quiet sleeper lead lurking further down the list. The tech is great for obvious slam dunks, but human judgment is still calling the last shot. So where does that leave us? Are we looking at a genuine productivity boost, or is Copilot just another fancy overlay crowding your home screen? The answer might depend on how you use it and what you're willing to leave to automation. Let's take a step back and sum it all up. If you've ever hoped that one AI tool would solve every bottleneck in your sales process, Copilot is a reminder that reality isn't that neat. The tech works best as a steady helper in the background, shaving off busy work, but never stealing the spotlight. It gives you quick wins like faster email drafts or a cleaner lead list, but those still need human eyes before you hit send or place your bets. Dynamics 365 Copilot fits best when your expectations are realistic. Test the features, see where they truly speed things up, and always keep your team's expertise driving the final call.